A powerful spiritual force pulsates all around us, offering energy and meaning to our daily lives. If we can meet the challenge of this force, our lives will expand in joy, peace, and fulfillment. The Redondo Beach Center for Spiritual Living and the Ministry of Dr. Moira Foxe presents Living Ideas. The power of new thought based on the dynamic principles of science of mind as taught by Dr. Moira Foxe. These programs are presented in order that we encompass the mastery of well-directed faith based on the inner conviction that we are surrounded by an intelligent law, which does unto each of us as we believe.
So in the light of all of that, today we get to look at this wonderful thing called change or changes that you and I happen to live and move and have our being in. It's a constant state that you and I live in of flux, of change. Know it or not, like it or not, that's just how it is. It's an immutable law, this thing called the law of change. And life is so much more joyous and easy for us when we are comfortable with that and we go with the flow of that. But, and there is a but, so many of us are very reluctant and resistant to go with the flow of change. Even if it's change for good, we hesitate. Because we are so used to being in a rut. And no matter how comfortable the rut is, it is a rut. And a rut is a state or a place wherein there's not much new going on. There's not much of new that is happening. There's not a great sense of eagerness every day. I wake up and wonder, oh, goody, goody, I wonder what good thing is in the day for me today. You and I were created, and we have a spiritual DNA that has within us the ability to wake up every day like a child who knows today is the day I go to Disneyland for my first time. We have that within us. You and I could wake up every day with that feeling, that giddiness of delight, that we know something great and something wonderful and something marvelous and something good is about to happen today. And we're with it. We're on board. We're open and receptive to it. And yet, that hesitancy, that resistance, and that reluctance that we have in our lives that does this to change, automatically, without even giving it a thought, because it's just an automatic habit, a thing that we do, gets in the way of us and stops us and blocks us. And so, those boulders, those obstacles, those holes, those stoppages that seem to be in our way overpower us at times, and we don't see any way around them or under them or over them or out of them. And we endure. You see, when we are resistant and reluctant in our lives, we endure. When we are open to the flow of change and transformation, we overcome. There is a big difference between those two states of being. Uneasy endurance, existing in an enduring manner as we move through our lives, or moving through our lives with that sense of, gee, there's a pony in here somewhere. We overcome. We overcome. We overcome. And that's what we're here to do. Overcome all the apparent obstacles, overcome all the stoppages and blockages that seem to be there. Because they're going to be there. This is three-dimensional planet Earth. This is a human life in existence. And so the appearances of stoppages and blockages and obstacles and so on will be there. This is an obstacle walk, race, or whatever you want to call it. But the thing is, we can overcome. The thing is, we can figure it out. The thing is, not only can we overcome and figure it out, but we can actually enjoy doing it. Enjoy doing it. As I was sharing this morning, I love what Robert Kennedy said when he said, if there's nothing in your way, it means you're going nowhere. The rut. If there's nothing in your way, you're going nowhere. You see. So we have to look at this thing called change because it's part of life and living. It happens all the time on the inside of us and on the outside of us. Your body today is not what it was a moment ago, not what it was yesterday, and God knows not what it was 20 years ago. It's not. It just isn't. And that goes for everything in your life and living out there too. Everything. Everything changes. Right now we're in this beautiful season moving into fall. And even in California, you and I can see a little amber, a little yellow, a little gold appearing on some trees. And we look to it and we say, oh, isn't that beautiful? See, we appreciate the fall here much more than they do in New England. Because they have so much of it, they don't even see it. But we notice that little red leaf. We notice that little yellow one over there, and we notice that amber one there, and we go, oh, isn't that lovely? Because there are so few, we appreciate them more, see? But this thing called fall is that cycling thing too in nature that says change is occurring, change is happening. And we don't just see it in the trees and in nature around us. You go into all the stores now and everything is so warm and toasty because of all the colors of yellows and ambers and browns and golds and autumnal greens. The cushions and the pillows and the settings on the tables, there they are. And even some of you in your homes change up your cushions and the runners on the table and all of that to suit the season. I admire anybody who has the time to do that, or the inclination. It's a beautiful thing and I enjoy it in everybody else's home. And so, and in odd time I managed to do it myself. And I go, fancy that now. And it's a lovely thing. But the change that is occurring ought to be something that you and I are celebrating. And that is why always in the nature spirituality groups that have been amongst us since time immemorial, they've always celebrated the changing of the cycles. They had a big party, or we say in home in Ireland, a big hoolie. They had a big hoolie, a big gathering, and there was eating and drinking and making merry. And there was a blessing. Always there was a blessing. We paused to bless the changing cycles of nature within ourselves and outside of ourselves. And so you and I are called this week to take a real strong, good look at those areas in our lives where we're most resistant, most reluctant, and most hesitant. If we are to work upon those spiritual ideas that bubble up in us, it's a weekly thing. What happens in the sanctuary on Sunday is wonderful, but the real thing that happens is what you do with it between Sunday and Sunday. And so we're looking at what it is that causes us to hesitate, what it is that causes us to resist, and what it is that causes us to be reluctant. Because we block our good when we're engaged in these energies. We certainly do. And if I'm blocking my own good, I'm blocking the good for all of life and living, because I am not alone in this world. And what affects me personally affects everything and everyone out there too. There's no such thing as a private, secret, personal thought. It all affects everything else. Every single thought does that. So, when it comes to entering into change, I have discovered it's not enough just to say, I have to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to change. I'll begin on Monday. I said that just this week, actually, Monday. Because I was at so many celebrations and parties and so on, and there was such this amazing array of foods and this and that and the other, and I endeavored to be as careful as I could, but because of the abundance of it all, I had to say, okay, Monday. So ask me next Sunday if I succeeded in doing on Monday what I made the attention to do on Monday. It's a good thing to be checked up on and nudged into remembrance. Anyway, I've discovered that it's not enough just to have the fleeting thought and say, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I understand now, and I realize it's an actual process. This thing called change and transformation. It's a process. So I've discovered that this, we say that you're only one thought away from your good. I've discovered not so. We're 4 thoughts away from our transformation and good. And the first thought that comes is the thought that I call, it's the invitation thought. It's that point where you reach when you say, perhaps change is in order here. Perhaps change is in order here. And that's Spirit within us giving us that wonderful invitation to come higher and to go deeper and to go wider and to go, into a much more expanded awareness of ourselves and life and living. So that's the invitation thought. Perhaps change is required here. And then the second thought, I realize there's another thought that has to follow up on that, and it has to be my decision, my choice to be ready. Readiness, the readiness thought. Okay, I have the invitation to change. Am I ready? Yes, I'm ready. That's the next step. Readiness, I have to be ready. I have to be ready. That's the readiness thought. And then there is a third thought, and that is the back-up thought. Back-up thought. Okay, I have the invitation. I've responded to the invitation. I know I'm ready to accept the invitation. Now I have to back up that decision, that choice. And the way I back that up is through everything I'm thinking from here on in, and everything I'm feeling from here on in, and everything I'm doing from here on in. All of those must back up my decision to change. Back up thought. And then the fourth thought is the setting firmly of the intention into my conscious mind that I'm letting the universe know I'm ready for change. And I am a keeper of my word. I set deliberately, purposefully my intention, and those 4 pillars are the foundation upon which I build my new movement into change and transformation. And I must attend to each of those pillars and keep that foundation strong. That is how I move into change and transformation. And it's a process, and I am going to have to back it up. But the way I back it up is I go to the end of my idea. I move myself into the completion of the process. And I see myself at the end of the process. I feel as though I'm at the end of the process. I begin thinking as though I'm at the end of the process. And then I begin behaving myself as though it's done. And the beauty of this teaching is that way you work yourself backwards. Start at the completion and you move backwards. And when it's complete, you say, and so it is. It's done. It is accomplished. It is finished. Now that is the meaning of praying without ceasing. To pray without ceasing is to take your mind off your problem and put your mind on your good. So every time you toddle back, and you'll toddle back millions of times to your problem, you say, no, I am not choosing to live here anymore. Here's where I'm choosing to live now. Here, in the solution, in the realization of the good that I desire. That's to pray without ceasing. Monitoring your mind and keeping your mind on the good that you desire. And you always, when you go through those 4 phases, assume the feeling of the desire fulfilled. You assume, you begin to live as though it's already so. And then so it is. Basic Science of Mind 101. We've heard it a gazillion of times. And each time you and I hear it, we get it a little bit deeper. And we become a little bit more convicted. And we're ready to go at it. Not again. Not to begin over again. But to go at it in a much more profound and deeper way. That's what we're willing to do. Because we know it is within us to do that. And there's an impulse in you and me to do that, to enter into change, or we wouldn't be here today. We'd be at home in our jammies, drinking our coffee or hot chocolate or tea and reading the paper or magazine or whatever, wearing our bunny slippers. And so we're not there, we're here. We're here because this is what Spirit wishes to share with us today. Change is a natural, change is a given, and it is not arbitrary. It's mandatory. Change is mandatory. And it's a good thing. So you and I are learning to put our arms around it and embrace it and say yes to it and go with the flow of it. Now, can you do this? Can I do this? No, not of ourselves. We cannot do it. Oh, to get around those boulders and out of those holes and over those obstacles, it's impossible for me to do that on my own. It's impossible. I'm not expected to and I'm not supposed to. But with the power, with the presence of that which is greater than I am within me, moving through me and being led by that, everything is possible and I am unstoppable when I'm connected with my source. When I am connected to my source, I'm unstoppable and nothing, no obstacle is big enough in the way of me. And I can turn to it and I can say to it, you're not the boss of me. So on our own, no, it's not going to happen. So what is it all about then? How can I do all of this? How can I be the best of me? Connection. 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 I have to have a conscious, connected awareness that I'm always and ever in the presence of that which created me, that which supports me, that which supplies me with all of my good. And I have to feel giddy with delight every time I get consciously connected to it, because I know there's a power for good in the universe greater than I am, and it's on my side. And it wants me to flourish, and it wants me to thrive, and in so doing, cause everything and everyone around me to do likewise. There is no happy person on this plane who is flourishing and thriving just in and of themselves and for themselves. They're not happy. They may seem to be flourishing and thriving, but they're not happy. You've got to be doing that and assisting everybody else to do likewise, to be happy and enjoy and to have that Disneyland feeling every day. That's the play of spirit in us. Play of spirit in us. And so the call is, in that process of transformation and change, to stay connected to our source. The challenge may be that we get confused sometimes between the warrior within us and the mystic within us, because the warrior and the mystic go hand in hand on a three-dimensional plane in a human being, in an entity that's wearing a body. There is the mystic, there is the warrior, and you and I have to come to that mystical marriage with those two. And when the two are blended, when the two are one, you get what is known as the Christ, the perfect alignment between the ego and the soul, the ego and the spirit, the human and the divine. And that's what creates the Christ. And the Christ is the perfect individual, the spiritualized being. That's what the Christ is. And all those master teachers taught us how beautifully to do that. Numero uno one, being who's done it the most really fantastically well, was the master teacher Jesus. And of course, the mystic, the warrior, is there because I've got to love God and I've got to love my neighbor. Heaven and earth must combine itself. I've got to love God and I've got to love my neighbor as I love myself. And so for that to happen, I must understand that the warrior serves me beautifully and very well. The warrior keeps me awake and alert and knows when danger is near and knows that I need to be mindful and pay attention to it. And then the mystic comes in and knows exactly how to handle the danger. You handle the danger from the mystical element of your being. The warrior is just there to keep us safe and guarded and protected and remind us of the geography of everything that's going on around us and within us. And the warrior stands guard always, neither slumbering nor sleeping ever, but standing guard always in that protective mode. It's the beautiful, beautiful armor that we have been given that keeps us alert. And so then the mystic is the heart of us. The mystic is the soul of us. The mystic is the lover in us. The mystic is that which feeds us and nourishes us and causes us to thrive. The mystic is that which draws us by the cords of compassion and moves us out into, from that compassion, service, service, service. It is the mystic within us that will have us be the prophet that speaks up and out always for the truth and causes transformation to occur. And we see it all the time in social justice having its way in our communities when the prophet speaks. The prophet has always been in trouble, of course, and always been run out of town, and always been stoned, and always been jeered, and always been persecuted because of our resistance to change, our reluctance to change, and because of our terrible inertia, our terrible indifference with regard to what's going on globally as well as locally. And until we have that sense of spiritual sacred service as a global community, none of us is going to realize the oneness and the uniqueness of life and be at peace and at one with it all. For as long as one person suffers, as long as one child goes hungry, none of us can rest and be at peace, because we all belong to each other and we're all here to take care of each other. But it's impossible to do that until we first take care of ourselves. And so we are not called for self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is not going to do it. We've tried self-sacrifice. We've sacrificed ourselves up and down the yin-yang, and it hasn't worked. It really hasn't worked, because if it had worked, the world would be the way it is today. What are we called to? We're called to self-compassion. Self-compassion is what is being called from us now, not self-sacrifice, self-compassion. We have to look within ourselves and see the light and the love and the beauty and the grace and the joy and the splendor and the glory of ourselves as an individualized expression of life. We have to start relating to ourselves at our truth level. And we have to begin to have that compassion so that we can heal what we think needs healing, mend what we think needs mending, and fix what we think needs fixing within ourselves first before we start getting out there and endeavoring to do it on everything and to everyone else besides. So self-compassion, love yourselves, honor yourselves, respect yourselves, because the divine dwells in you as you. One of my teachers used to end every talk with those words. Beloved, he'd say, love yourself, honor yourself, respect yourself, because God dwells in you as you. He always used to say, too, you can break anything and mend it well and easily, but never, ever break the human heart, because it is the indwelling place of God. You can break a temple, you can break a mosque, you can break a church, you can break a sacred tree, but never, 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 never break the human heart, because it is the indwelling place of spirit. So you and I are called in our transformational process of change to mend, fix, and heal whatever we think needs it here before we start to move out beyond ourselves. We're called to self-compassion. We're called to be gentle with ourselves, and we are called to remember the truth that we have been given and the truth from whence we've come. And I love the mystics. I've always loved the mystics, and I love their poetry. And I love the line of Hafiz's poem when he says, Hafiz is one of the great Middle Eastern mystics. He says, if I am to believe what you tell me in your love letters, then I will surrender and believe who you think I am. if what is in all of those love letters you send me, I will surrender to who you think I am. And what does the divine think of us? You are my image. You are my likeness. I have called you by your name. You are mine. I have written and carved your name upon the palm of my hand, and I am with you, as I have always been, and I shall always be with you. And when you ask, I will give unto you. And when you knock, I will open the door. And when you seek, you will find. You will find. For I am your creator, and I love you, etc., etc., etc. Scour the scriptures of all the religions. Scour the mystical poetry. And oh my goodness me, you will see how amazing you are. And if you can grasp how you can see it from outside of yourself in that way, just open yourself up to knowing it within yourself and from yourself, and then, my dear ones, there'll be no need ever again to make any decision to change into transformation, for it will already be in place and already done, because you are, as I keep telling you, worthy. You are blessed. You are given to. You are wholly whole. You are indeed the image and the likeness of your Creator. And that's the truth of you, believe it or not. And if it's the truth of you, it's the truth of everybody else that is in existence and every living thing. Are you ready for this kind of change?
Yes.
Are you ready for this true and deep transformation?
Yes.
Do you really now have it within you to start relating to yourself from the point of view of self-compassion?
Yes.
And when are you ready to begin this?
Now.
Is this your final word?
Yes.
And so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at redondocsl.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.